This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
And welcome back, everybody. It is a modality that can help you feel better. Just move your life in a very positive direction after you've been through some challenges, whether you're feeling pain, whether it's chronic, you're holding tension. That's the phrase, holding tension. There's a technique to release that has been around a couple of years, 150 technically, realistically. It's called the Alexander technique, and we're going to learn more about it. He is a neuromuscular and rehab specialist, and he's back with us. Travis Chastain is on the program. How are you doing today?
Steve, I'm great. It's good to see you again, sir.
You too. You too. Learn a lot about this. I like to keep my eye on certain things, these kind of modalities. This one escaped me until we met. Maybe in passing, I heard it along the way, but it didn't click with me until we started talking about the benefits of this technique that, again, 150 years. Oh my gosh. Wow. What else can you tell us? I know there's a lot of deep research on this too, right?
Yeah, I mean, the Alexander technique has got some really exciting research from chronic back pain, neck pain, as we've discussed in the previous ones, Parkinson's disease, as we discussed, but also knee pain. There's a really great research out there on what it does for osteoknee arthritis, for example. By working on improving the coordination of the head, neck, and back, what we have found is that 20 lessons in the Alexander technique reduces pain in knee pain by what I think it's 54% is the exact amount. Yeah. So, some really dramatic changes in how the knees and the legs function when you are really working on improving your coordination using the Alexander technique method.
The one thing I didn't even consider was arthritis pain. Here's another one. Yeah, that category alone, which it does, helps people feel better. My gosh, so many people deal with pain as they get older. Even people younger being diagnosed with arthritis for some reason, it's been popping up. When the technique is done, let's say it's even for knee pain, arthritis, is it pretty much instant results once you've figured out, you've learned how to do the technique? Do you feel fairly quick comfort after you do it?
Well, I don't think anybody can promise instant results, right? Because we are dealing with neuromuscular habits attention. But I will say this, my experience was very, very quick and very rapid. A lot of people's experiences are very quick and very rapid changes, right? I mean, if you have some really serious knee pain, is it going to instantly take everything away? No, it's not going to do that. That'd be unreasonable. But are you going to feel some real improvements in your use and your coordination? Are you going to feel the pressure being taken off of those joints a little bit here and a little bit there? Absolutely, you are, Steve.
Wow.
Right? Very little change. Just a little change in your thought here with a little hands-on guidance here. You're going to get that little bit of difference, of spacing in your head, neck, and back, and that's going to result in a difference in how you feel the pressure. And absolutely, you'll feel better. You'll definitely feel better.
Is all the pain coming from what we say holding tension? Every pain that we deal with, somehow is it connected to this thing called holding tension?
Well, pain from a neuroscience perspective is a bit of a mystery. There's a lot of neuroscientists who won't even touch the concept of pain. Okay. But I'll tell you this. Let's use this as an analogy. The human body, in order to function well, let's say, needs this particular amount of space. It needs X amount of space. And what unhealthy chronic tension does, and that's what we're talking about. Unhealthy chronic tension, what it does is it reduces the amount of spacing, right? This concept that FM Alexander coined, the tightening of the neck and the pulling the head back and down and the compressing of the whole back, right? What is that ultimately doing? It's narrowing, it's reducing the spacing, both in your length and in your width and in your depth, right? So you're essentially not getting the room that you were designed to have.
Yep.
And that's a little bit like, well, if an engine is running without its lubrication, you wouldn't expect it to function very well for very long, right? You know, if the car's parking brake is on while you're driving, you wouldn't expect good results out of your vehicle long term.
8
Right.
spark plugs and you're running on, 4.
Right, exactly. So use impacts our functioning. How we use this, whether we're allowing the optimum amount of space or not, and we have control over that depending on how we think. Right? If we're bringing excessive tension into our body, we're reducing the space. It's very important to know that, right? And if we do that and we get in the habit of doing that for days, weeks, months, years, decades, that has extraordinarily negative consequences on the human body, right? On very drastic levels, as deep as digestion, for example, right? So, when we get the opposite of that, though, when you've learned how to get yourself a little bit positive spacing, right? Then every joint in your body, your back, your spine, your ligaments, they all get a little bit more space away from one another, right? They're not grinding against one another anymore, or at least not to the degree in which they would, right? And so a lot of times that translates, Steve, into a feeling of being lighter. You're not lighter. You still weigh the same as you did before, but you're not exerting the same amount of pressure on each individual joint because you are honoring the space in which you were designed to have. Right. And so that's the ultimate problem of excessive chronic tension in the body is it unhealthily reduces the amount of space that you need to function and coordinate yourself optimally.
People say, oh, what you're feeling, it's in your head. Come on, it's in your head. In a way, it's in your head in terms of what's creating the tension, holding tension. It's coming from past traumas, past situations. Our minds created the tension due to emotions, other factors as well. Would you say that that's fairly accurate when we say it's in your head? In a way, it kind of is.
I think the concept of the head, the mind, right?
Yep.
The body does what the head tells it to.
Yep.
The body's a perfect servant of the mind. It's not this unwieldy, uncontrollable thing that we tend to feel it to be. It's actually the opposite, right? So it's in our head in the extent that when we try to control things that we don't have direct control over, for example, when we try to control things like an external outcome, for example, that we don't have direct control over. The only thing we control is how we think in the moment around it, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't even have direct control over, is my heart going to take this next beat without skipping a step, right? We don't have direct control over that. We have indirect control over these things, right? I can recognize conceptually in my awareness that I have a hand here, and I can say, well, there's this goal there to go reach to it, and it will obey me, right? But that is indirect processes that are going on, whether you realize it or not, right? You're giving an order that is triggering routines to fulfill the order, right? So what the Alexander technique is doing is, okay, here's these routines to fulfill the order. Now do it with X minus 10 amount of tension in the activity, if that makes sense, right? Because we all, Steve, just get in the habit of trying to control things that we don't have control over because, yeah, maybe it's because the world can be a scary place sometimes, right? I mean, raise your hand if the world can be a scary place sometimes.
Can't ignore it.
Right? You can't ignore it, my friend. Absolutely, right? And so it's startling the little we have direct control over, my friend. There's almost nothing that we have direct control over. And that's in a way, that's what the Alexander technique is harping on. It's not to say that we don't have control, it's just the way that we go about trying to control things is wrong. It's wrong, it's inefficient, and it leads to problems over time. Right? You know, when your postural network system gets out of whack, and it does for all of us, by the way, every single one of us, there's no way of getting it out of whack directly. You can try all the live long day to kind of push yourself up and do all these things, but maybe you'll even succeed in being straighter, but you haven't done anything to alleviate the imbalances that created the problem to begin with. You've just shifted them around a bit. Right? So the only way out of it, these very deep patterns, these very deep habits, is through the indirect instruction, the indirect wish, the invitation, the waiting before you do an activity to disrupt the disruption to your proper coordination. It's the only way.
It's years, decades in the making of, you talk about posture. My gosh. The other night I was at a meeting. There happened to be a mirror, and I'm sitting there and I'm looking at myself in the mirror. I'm like, I know my posture is not good. Far from, far from. And I'm looking and I'm trying to straighten up during the meeting. And I'm finding myself, even though I'm intentional about it, I still have horrible posture. Like, I'm like, why is it, why is it just not? Because it's years of doing it, I guess, wrong. But here's the thing that really concerns me with all of this.
Yeah.
Is that more and more research comes out to prove that the body is keeping score. So all these things that we talk about that we're holding tension from, past traumas, and that's affecting our health, disease, and all of that, the body down to the cellular level, the argument you had with somebody last month, your body already, it registered it. Yep, got that. Put that in there. Going to remember that for you. Your mind may have forgot it, or it's in your subconscious and it's off your radar. Not the body. That's just one incident. Now take years and years of different things that we all go through called life. Now your body is trying to make up for that. And what is it doing? Holding tension, which is creating pain, bad posture, and so much more. Does that sound reasonable in terms of your experience, research?
Oh, sure. I mean, yeah. I mean, habits are a bit of mystery why we come to them, and there's so many reasons why we can get into habits, right? Some of them can be trauma related, and some of them can be just, like I said, boredom in class, right? The reason behind them is grand, right? You're absolutely right. The body does keep a score, and we well, I'll switch gears for a second. I promise we're coming back to it. It's interesting because the body can only live in the present. It can only live in this present space. It's attached with the mind. The mind has an interesting ability that the body doesn't have. And you know what this is, Steve. The mind has the ability to live in the past, the present, and to project itself into the future. We tend to do that all the time, don't we?
For sure.
Right? You mentioned the word trauma. Right? Let's say you're walking around, something happens outside in the world that reminds you of a trauma, right? It projects you back into the past and you rehearse those holding things that perhaps you did in that past moment that you got hurt, right? And then your mind tends to kind of anticipate future consequences and all these other things, right? But it's when we're in this end gaining kind, we tend to kind of swing to the past and then swing into the future, but we very rarely live in the present. The only place that the body can live is right here in this now, right? And now, since the body is a perfect servant of the mind, it'll try to go into the past with you, but it can't do that. So it's just going to torque and twist in the attempt. Your mind moves into the future, but it can't do that either. So it torques and twists in the attempt.
This is new for me. All right.
Yeah.
Yes, completely on board with we should live in the present, or mind anyway. And a lot of us, myself included, you think about the past, you think about the future. The game changer for me was realizing living in the now is the best thing you can do. And of course, we're going to waver every once in a while. Like you said, the pendulum will swing to the future, to the past. If you're mindful of it, to try and bring it back to center, present. But you said something I find very interesting, that the body lives in the now. It doesn't know the past, but if that's the case, and okay, I'm on board that with that. But if the body is keeping score and it remembers, or I'm trying to think of the best way to put it, it retains the information from something that may have happened in the past, but it's holding it, I guess, in the now.
Right.
That's what's actually going on there.
Sure. Yeah, and you do have to shine. I'm not saying at all that you don't have a responsibility to shine the light on the past traumas in order to be able to be present in the now.
Understood. But I'm talking about the body. I'm talking about the body.
Right.
We have the mind, where we know the mind can, like you said, and a great analogy of, just swinging from each side to each side. And sometimes you're into, a little more into the center. Hey, you're in the sweet spot. Oh, I got a memory from the, I got worrying about something coming up. That's probably never going to take place anyway, but I'm just saying we're going to worry about it. But the body, if the body's living in the now, how does the traumas that it experienced, or that information it's retaining and creating disease and all that, how is that just in the now? It is a piece of the past, isn't it? Not the future.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is a piece of the past. You are holding a posture around it, to be sure, right? And a lot of the times we're not aware of that posture until perhaps we get triggered about something that happened in the past, right? And then we feel that uptick, right? We feel that uptick, that tension, right? So here's an example of something. Just get in connection with your whole body for a second, Steve. Just notice it. And now just get an example of what the mind can do. If there's anything that you're worried about in the future, go ahead and think about that for a second while being present to your body. Now notice what your body is doing while you start to think about that. Do you feel any tension start to build up in your body when you start to think about that thing that you're worried about in the future?
Absolutely. And
Yeah,
even if you catch yourself, your breathing rate will change.
right. You'll breathe a little, you won't breathe as well,
Right.
right?
Won't be as deep. It'll be maybe a little bit
Exactly.
shorter,
So you're holding tension in your rib cage that's preventing the proper atmospheric flow, right? Your ribs are not moving appropriately to take big breath, right? So here's a practical example of how you can use the Alexander technique in the midst of a trauma wanting to reveal itself to you. Or, you're worried about the future. Well, don't worry about worrying about the future. Get in connection to how you're using yourself in the moment in your body while worrying about the future. That's something you can work with. Again, this thing that you're worried about in the external world, you have zero control over it, but you do have control over the fact that you're tightening your ribs.
Truth.
And you can get a clue as to what that psychophysical habit is, right? This worry about the future that may or may not be a result of something that happened to you in the past. And then you can work. You can work with that tension indirectly. You can shed the tears if you need to shed the tears. You can write down what the ghosts in the machine have to say to you if they reveal themselves. And then you can get some clarity, some peace, and some ability to live within peace back in the moment, right? But that's a practical example of the indirect way that we can move around things. You don't have the direct control over the future, but you do have a control indirectly on how you're going to use yourself in the moment in response to the stimuli of that worry. Getting some awareness and in touch with your body around the tension. Giving
Does
yourself permission to not react and work with it in the moment.
does the Alexander technique help you get in touch with yourself, get in touch with better, get in better connection with your body?
There's no doubt. No, I mean it is it's a major league sharpening of the system. And that's a beautiful thing, right? Because I'll give you an example. I've had, as we've talked about, I've had bad traumas in the past around car accidents, emotional traumas too, like all of us. And I can feel the movement into those habits. One of the gifts and curses about habits as human beings is we never forget how to use ourselves in a particular way once we learned how to use ourselves that way. But what the technique does offer is I can feel very, very acutely, ah, I feel that tension that's wanting to drive me into that habit that I know causes some serious problems for me in the function of my arms, for example. I can feel that holistic tension, how it is, the minute it starts to appear, the second it starts to appear, and then I can think in a particular way, or better, more appropriately, I can get back to thinking in a particular way to improve my coordination in that moment. Give myself a little bit of a break. Think about some ease in my neck. Think about where the head ought to be. Think about my whole back lengthening and widening. It really is that simple. I know it's hard to believe. It's really that simple. When you just give up a goal, you give up agenda, and you just think in a positive way around your use changes for the better. Not all at once, because we can't handle all that anyway, psychologically. But it gets a little bit better, and we can handle that psychologically. And then gets a little bit better, and then we can handle that psychologically. Right? You got to be careful when you're dealing with habits about the devil I know versus the devil I don't know problem. You can only change things so quickly without it being systemically unsafe and being completely and totally rejected by the psyche.
So in other words, if you want to make change and a radical change, your body's not buying it. Your mind's not going to accept it. It's got to be
It has to be
progression.
systematic. Yes, it has to be systematic and gradual, right? If it's not systematic and gradual, you're going to run into one of two problems. So you're going to either not appreciate the change, it's going to slip by you what happened,
Sure.
right? You're not going to learn the lesson, and then you're just going to get back into the old problem, right? Or it's going to be so psychologically unsafe that we can't handle it.
Interestingly, when people are trying to get out of the anxiety of the past, the future, many don't even know that that's what's happening. They might gravitate towards substances, whatever it might be. And no judgment here at all, not minimizing anything, but in doing certain habits that we might have, that gets us out of our head and temporarily feels okay. But that's not the true answer. This sounds like it is. Really being able to deal with it and connect this, your mind, with this, your body, like a real connection.
Well, raise your hands if you've had trouble with substance abuse of one kind or other. I have, yeah, because
even if somebody, and again, there's nothing wrong here.
yeah.
Somebody takes, CBD, THC, whatever. It gets them into a different headspace where they probably aren't feeling as much tension, holding tension, because they're just elevated in their mind and in their thinking. But it doesn't make it go away. It doesn't.
No, and I suspect I know why I did it, and I suspect the reason why we all do it is we feel powerless to have any agency around it in and of our own faculties. I think we feel powerless that we can change it in and of our own faculties, so we need this external thing or we need that external thing to take care of it, right? Whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But no, you just got to think of it a little differently than typically how we think of it. The reason we run into walls all the time that feel so frustrating and so hopeless is we're always trying to do things directly. We're always trying to take things into our own hands, right? We're always trying to push harder, work harder, push harder. we never ever once ask ourselves, maybe we're doing too much. Maybe,
And
yeah,
with that controlling, so we think, my knee hurts. What am I going to do? I got to either exercise or whatever. Physical therapy. They're going to work on it, whatever. But what about the mind? The mind has a lot to do with it. And I truly believe that most of us aren't making this connection. We think that's my knee. My knees have given me trouble. We don't think of where the trouble may have came from. I've even spoke to practitioners. Like if you have I think it's in the right side of the body. Um, let's say you have shoulder pain. I once talked to, trying to remember if that's right. No, it's the left side. It's the left side. Once had trouble, and I talked to somebody who's intuitive and does a lot of energy healing. And right away, they're like, "Oh, you have pain in that shoulder? Yeah. What's going on with the woman? What's this?" I was going through a divorce at the time,
right.
and they connected it. I'm like, can't ignore it. Timing wise and everything. Maybe it wasn't just playing tennis. There's more going on there that I'm unaware of. And many of us are unaware of. There's connection there. We just think, oh, I was playing tennis and my elbows, my shoulders bothering me. It may not be all that. Probably isn't. If this holding tension thing holds some truth, which it does.
Yeah, I mean, again, those postural misuses that we get ourselves into, they're a great mystery.
Yeah.
All right. And you only get to know the mystery when you start shedding light on it. Right.
100%.
And the only way that you can shed light on something productively is you got to give yourself a little bit of a break. You can't be so darn hard on yourself. Right. You got to humble yourself to the point where you're like, I don't have any way of directly getting out of this. I have no idea how to move differently. I've moved this way my whole life. This is how I move.
Yep.
But let me just wait before I do, and let me think in a particular way and see what happens. Right? So there's some trust there that you have to really embrace, and there's some humility that you have to really embrace. But if you really embrace those two things, I mean, my goodness, you can change so much so quickly. You really can.
100%. And for me, studying this metaphysics, energy, doing podcasts, and all different in this whole wheelhouse, this makes things very much more clear. The mind, the body connection. How do we connect with you, Travis? What's the best way if somebody's looking to get some relief, to try and start figuring this all out? How do they do that?
You can connect with me at www.bodymindbalanceco.com. I'd love to have some conversation with you.
Beautiful. It blows my mind how this has been around for 150 years.
Yeah.
and many, myself included, just learning about it. But it's everything. The connection between the mind, the body, the issues, the physical issues that we have. Amazing how this can work and help you feel better in many different ways.
Absolutely. So many ways.
And it's Travis tested too.
Travis tested, man. Yeah. I'm not unusual. I mean, there's so many people who've come to the Alexander technique with just way worse problems than I had, to be honest with you, and gotten great relief from it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing all of this. Really, really do appreciate it.
I appreciate you, Steve. Have a great day, okay?
You too. We'll be right back.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.